Faith Over Breakfast. My name's Andy Littleton. I'm sitting with Eric Siepen, and we talked about the social dilemma, which is all the buzz on social media, but it's about not being on social media. So how do you know about this? What's going on? What do we do? How would Andy and Eric respond? How different are they? All these questions and more, interrupted by zero advertising coming your way.
I was going to say answered. After this ad.
After?
In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome. Do you go to McDonald's? Guess what? You can get 2 sandwiches and a coffee for less
than a sandwich, hash brown, and a coffee.
Go to McDonald's. Get 2 sandwiches. Share with a friend.
This ad would be more effective if they were paying us. All right, everybody, enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all hyped up on sausage biscuits.
And we were just beforehand talking about giving and all the tithing.
I tried to give you one. You said no.
Yeah, I know. You tried to give me 50% of your meal.
I did.
But I didn't want 50%.
Did you want a different percent?
I wanted 100% or nothing.
Oh, well, you didn't say that. Probably would have been a healthier choice.
No, tithing for your church, not your Egg McMuffins.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we were talking about.
You want 100% of the tithe from our church is what you're saying.
Yes, that's pretty much what we were trying to negotiate a deal here.
I believe.
Yes,
yeah.
I do. 100%.
Yeah. Well, so we've been asked to talk about the social dilemma.
We have.
Have you watched the whole thing?
No. But
you still haven't watched it.
I didn't have a chance to.
You had a dilemma, a social dilemma.
I did, which was, will I watch this on vacation or not?
Yeah.
And I've watched 70%.
Okay.
So I know a good chunk of what it's about.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Scary.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought, well, first, that there were really interesting chunks of the documentary from a film perspective, and then there were parts where I'm like, really, do we have to have this dramatization of?
Oh yeah, the little avatar. The guys I could have done without.
I'm like, really, this is I'm watching something about big gigantic social networks,
the most powerful tech companies in the world.
I don't need to be entertained.
This is the best you can do. There's these 3 little actors.
Yeah, in this control room trying to control me. Well, that's their whole job. What did I think? I think you should realize that people are using psychology to shape your views and get you, and you have become the product, and they're selling you to different organizations.
Which, by the way, isn't new. It's just more sophisticated.
Right.
I mean, advertising has been trying to
use psychology for a very long time.
For a very long time, and is just getting better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because now...
And the systems are more available and in your face and constant. Yeah.
The delivery systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing's free, right? I mean, that's the thing. No. You Facebook seems free to us, but it's not.
No.
We pay a price for it. Same with all these other things.
Right. Were you surprised when you saw it?
I think that I wasn't surprised about what was going on in the sense of like, oh wow, I can't imagine that ever happening. I think what concerned me is that it has created a more hive mind like thing in the world, and in particular places like Facebook and Twitter have access to billions of people instead of millions of people, and that means that they can be used, the platforms can be used to influence large groups of people, and it showed it that they could.
And how it went from it goes from this digital reality into a lived reality potentially very quickly.
Right. So the social dilemma is a documentary on Netflix that just came out maybe 3 weeks ago. And it takes people who develop Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. I don't know. I can't remember any of the other.
Just Google itself.
Google itself, right.
Maybe that was one of the ones that I hadn't wrapped my mind around quite as much, was just pure Google and Gmail and how they factored into all that. It doesn't surprise me. I think I was pretty well aware just from observing Facebook and Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. But I could see that things that I was Googling potentially popped up as an ad immediately, right?
Right.
And even things that I spoke about were popping up as ads, and that certain people's posts were, if you looked at one or kind of were like, what's this person up to, and looked at their feed, that you started seeing their posts more. I wrapped my mind around that a while ago, and I assumed the reasoning was what it was, that they were trying to keep you engaged. And why would they keep you engaged? Because they want to make money. They're an advertising agency. I've been telling Abby, she's my daughter, she said, there's a free quiz. And I'm like, no, it's not a free quiz. They're gathering info. I've been saying that kind of stuff for a year now, maybe 2. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by the concept, but there was something about having it all succinctly sort of presented to you that made you think. And then the amount of how much pre-information they have about you that dictates what content you see. I also believed and knew that, but just to think about it for another hour and a half, and then also to make that connection to the way that people behave in society. All of it for me, I went, that seems about right. But it didn't shock me like I feel like it shocked some folks. But I also, maybe I've just put a little more thought into it, maybe. I don't know.
You're making some hitting serious noise to our podcast.
Yeah.
I think we're going to hear that echo.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, folks. But anyway, but it's a thing. So what's the right response? So I feel like I've heard from some people already who they deleted the accounts. Okay, that's fine. I guess that's an okay thing to do, but I don't think they deleted Google. I think they're going to continue using Google. Like the problem's still, right. It's even embedded in your email, apparently, right?
Oh, yes.
And so I don't think deleting apps is wrong. I don't think we need them all. But there's got to be another way to address this.
Well, I think the real issue is realizing that you're understanding the world is being shaped by more than just you, and it has an intention and purpose.
Yeah.
And anytime that exists, that behind it there's something spiritually probably not good.
Right.
And
examine it, be watchful.
Yes. Yeah. And it has an addictive aspect to it.
Yeah.
And so I would argue, like you're not going to get away from having them catalog you at some level and advertise to you. But really, honestly, there isn't a reason for you to be on Facebook.
Right.
Too much.
Right.
There isn't a reason for you to be on Instagram. There isn't a reason for you to be on Twitter. You probably should take the ones that you constantly find yourself on.
Right. I guess it's like, maybe I should say this. It'd be like any other addiction that maybe you need to ease off, or maybe you can't be there. Like that's the question is, how does this affect me? My phone buzzed in my pocket. The great thing is Eric just became he was like, oh no, phone's buzzing. I must leave this podcast.
Wow,
what's happening here?
Interesting is I realized I haven't used my phone. I don't know where it is.
Hey, well, social dilemma
right there. And I don't really care where my phone is unless I left it in the car.
Yes,
because I don't want it to be stolen.
Why?
Because it costs me so much money.
No, you don't need a phone.
For my job, I need a phone.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, just sit here in the church, open the door, and they'll come.
Oh.
A walk to their homes.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, well, you'll reflect a lot about Christ. I mean, not that I do these things. I'm just saying.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, that's great if they all move into my neighborhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's,
So the real problem is that people don't live in the same neighborhood.
Right.
That actually might be a real problem.
Well, there's a lot of things. But the real issue is Facebook didn't exist. And Twitter and all these things, these ways of communicating and advertising and shaping who we are didn't exist. Now they do, and we have to deal with them.
And don't you think every technology brings with it some gift and some curse?
Agreed. I think when you listen to some of the statistics of the impact on young women, that was pretty devastating.
No, it is. It is.
And, maybe some of this is a little closer to drinking.
Right.
And its impact on a young person and their inability to control their impulses and their newly developed brain.
Right.
Developing brain. So
no, there's definitely an addictive quality. I wonder, somebody told me years back that what destroyed the neighborhood was air conditioning. They said that and this was here in Tucson, they said, yeah, it was hot, but we would go outside. We would rather have the breeze than be sitting in a brick oven.
Right.
And we were close and we knew each other's problems and we helped each other out and we walked around and talked. And they said the block of years where air conditioning became affordable and everybody started to get it, everybody started to stay inside and seclude from one another, and it destroyed the community. Do we love air conditioning?
Yes.
Yes. But did it become addictive to people?
Yes.
Right.
Did murder rates go down? Yes.
They went down?
No, I don't know. I'm making that up because when you're high, you're like, I'm killing you. I'm sorry.
Or maybe they went up because nobody was outside. I mean, that was the interesting thing about the pandemic, early pandemic days. All of a sudden, everybody's outside. I don't know if you noticed that in your neighborhood. Our neighbors are walking. We were having like a transient issue in the neighborhood. It went away. Why? Because everybody was outside and riding their bikes. Now, summer hit. Tucson is hot, but I have a feeling that that's not going to return, even in the fall. Not that version of it, because we're back into our lives. But there's, interestingly, air conditioning, which we all view as a wonderful technology, kind of drew us all away from each other. So we're not watching out for each other. We're not aware of each other.
Right.
We're all in our houses. I mean, me too. I don't know. It's an interesting, the new technology always gets all the scrutiny. Now, I'm not arguing for it. I actually really do see the issue here. I'm just saying it's easy to jump on the new one and miss the thousands that we're also addicted to, like our cars, like our air conditioning, that also are damaging our relationships.
Right. Well, and the hard thing I have is I totally agree with all of that. Except that when we're talking about visual technology, so we're talking about like Netflix, Disney Plus.
Which of course, the interesting thing is, where did I hear about the social dilemma?
On Netflix.
No, I didn't. Oh. I heard about it on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
And then I went and watched it on Netflix, which is operating by the same principles.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So that's interesting.
But we have all these visual things, and the capacity to live stream, the capacity to do all that we're doing has been moved forward since the mid 80s by pornography. Pornography has moved technology because it's needed to get it onto these platforms and be able to stream it better and to get it more clear. And so it's driven the technology. It's been the underpinning to that. And the dark side of all of this comes, in my mind, in two kind of places. One is it creates this adversarial nature. Right. So there's this, and then on the other side, it creates this distortion of image, of God's image. If you go on to Instagram and you decide you're just going to do the little search thing, and look at other people's profiles.
Sure.
A lot of what you're going to see there is what, when I was, 19, you had to go to Circle K and ask for behind the counter. There's a lot of...
I wouldn't know about this.
There's a lot of soft porn that's on Instagram alone. And you can find it if you dig into Pinterest. You can find it on these. So these aren't...
Do you think Twitter is also as... I'm not ridden with the visuals, because it feels like Twitter gets people really locked in, and it's almost all text.
Yes, though they do now. You can post videos and do all that on Twitter, but Twitter gets you. You get and Reddit, and you get down these conversation rabbit holes. Reddit is dangerous. Yes, I think in the darkness that you can ease. It's just that it used to be that the access to the cesspool.
Yeah.
So to speak, it was a little harder.
Sure.
And I think it's really easy to get to the cesspool in our culture. And as a pastor and follower of Jesus, that's concerning, because before we had this concept of shame where I didn't want to get caught doing something. Right. I didn't want to. Now we live in an exhibitionist kind of society with the cesspool right in our hands, right in our bedrooms, right in our living rooms.
Right. When I was a teenager, my friends and I had to steal porno mags is basically the deal. And so the risk you took and the amount of shame, and I did get caught, and it felt very difficult to do.
Yes.
And amazingly, right, we went to all that trouble.
Yeah.
And so now it is not difficult. It's the easiest thing in the world.
So the consumption becomes more. Mm-hmm. And you gorge on it, and you form extreme addictions.
Right.
And it's not, so now it's pornography, it's online, gaming, virtual, living alternative lives.
I think we're addicted to controversy.
Yes, yes, arguing. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know, just the conflictual nature of everything.
Yeah.
The antagonistic nature of everything.
And we're addicted to being I don't know, what's the word for having lots of succulents? I don't know. Trendy.
Oh, it's I think we like the salacious nature of all of it. Mm-hmm. And so because it produces, we know chemically, it's just producing these rushes for us.
I get a rush every time a new succulent comes to my house.
I know, you do. I don't know that, but I guess I can. I know a person in our church who loves their succulents.
Yeah. Right. So yes. Sorry, you were saying chemically we know that this happens.
Yeah.
And some of that's. Yeah. Anyway, yes, it does.
Well, and here's the thing, I think. And this is maybe where you and I maybe will diverge a little bit. But I think that we can no longer, as followers of Jesus, be people of the middle ground. And this is what I mean. I don't mean we need to get in the streets and fight all the different things that we see that are wrong. What I mean by being in the middle ground is, how are we going to live life as followers of Jesus, and what is actually holy? And so a lot of times we approach it very pragmatically. And we're like, well, even like you said, and I'm not accusing you, but you said, well, technology is a good thing. And so you kind of have to decide, can you use Facebook or should you not use Facebook? Is it okay for you, or isn't okay for you? And I'm thinking maybe we need, as we move into this time when things are, heightened in so many areas, that we as followers of Jesus are like, well, it might be time for us to just say, we don't need that. We need to pursue holiness in a different way.
And I'll drop that idea when all the people who bring it up stop using their GPS and stop Googling things. And it's one of those things where it can become a little bit hypocritical to say, I'm going to get out of all those things, except for all the ones that I use and that work for me. All the ones that I don't really use and don't really work for me, I will get out of. I don't know. That's where my hang up is.
I agree with you, except that if I Google Domino's and I call Domino's, that is much different than me flipping through Facebook consistently, or there's some. I think what social dilemma kind of communicates to me that there are particular things within your phone and on your TV screen that are dangerous. They're not just, and they aren't equivalent.
No, I know, and basically what I gleaned, and tell me if you see it differently from the social dilemma, is that generally paid advertising is the aim. And in order for paid advertising to work, they need to keep you coming back a lot. And so they observe what you like in the ways that you behave online, and they feed it to you, like or hate, whatever brings you back. And they feed it to you to come back so that you also partake in the advertising. Yeah. So there's something to, maybe it's just that it's really two-pronged, because what we do online is we go out and we pursue what we like or we hate. And they are tracking it and using it. It does have dangerous consequences because it fills us up with the thing we like too much, or it drives us into despair. And I personally think that some taxation strategies on their revenue streams would temper that a little bit. I'm not opposed to that. My company sure gets taxed a lot. I don't mind if theirs does too. Maybe that's, wrong of me. I don't know. But I think that would temper the drive to just, draw people in at any cost. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to stop pursuing those things that we love and hate. I think that we're going to read about them somewhere. I think that we're going to. I'm just saying they are tracking our behavior. Does it dial in and shape our behavior? Sure, but we have to do some more work other than just app deletion. Right?
I would agree, but I think that I watched Social Dilemma. And not because I'm thinking I knew everything that they said.
Yeah.
But I decided, you know what? I don't need to have Facebook or Twitter on my phone.
Right.
I need to do a little work.
Yeah.
If I need to get to Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook's a useful tool in the sense that, I can quick check in on some people. I can say, hey, here's a sermon. You should listen to this. But it's not something I should be on, or anyone should be on a regular basis. I shouldn't be spending an hour, 2 hours a day on Facebook just because I look at it 10 minutes every, hour. It's just not something I should be doing. And I think that I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah.
And I think that
I don't disagree with that.
As followers of Jesus, honestly, like this is, I've been reading a lot of early church history recently, and what's discouraging to me, both in myself and in the larger church, is that we have failed to do what our brothers and sisters did not fail to do in the epidemics of the early first 2 centuries, and that is take care of people actually and risk their lives.
Right.
And it's not to say the church hasn't done that, but
I was going to say you're not even allowed in hospital rooms.
Right. But the public image that we have portrayed is us infighting about should we gather or not, and infighting about the masks that we should wear. Agreed. And infighting over, just anything and everything. And I think we haven't been a people who have looked around and said, well, what do we all need? And it's not that churches aren't doing things. I mean, I think what we've struggled to do as a church at large is actually we've struggled to put forward a unified, humble position. Humility has not been something that we have put forward,
and we haven't put it forward because we don't have it.
Right.
I mean, it's a sad thing to say, but I guess that's what I'm getting at is the problem isn't that social media shows it to the world. The problem is we don't have it. The problem is that we are not humble. The problem is that we are driven by very different goals, and it's really unfortunate that gets all blasted out on social media. And I agree that I think I look at that. I just think to myself, what are you thinking? If the idea of being salt and light is at all valid, why are you taking people to task on Facebook, you dum-dum? Like, that's how I feel. But I also feel like Facebook is where we're doing it, but it's a thing that we're dealing with inwardly and between ourselves. I'm not saying, I don't get any, I'd be interested to know some of your practical strategies. For me, I've turned off notifications for a lot of things, everything but text and phone call. And every once in a while, I think about turning those off too. And I don't have, I make extra steps. I don't have the Facebook app or anything. I have to actually go log online and stuff like that. So those are little things I've done. So I don't personally feel I need the immediacy and that would drive me insane. And I don't think it's good. And I've gotten rid of those things. And I try to be aware of what things are being fed to me because of the type of searching I do. And I try to keep that stuff in mind. How about you? Give me some practicals. And then I want to run another train of thought by you and get your thoughts on it.
Well, here's an interesting thing. As you were talking, I'm thinking, I would say about 50 to 60% of my searches on Google have to do with Jesus.
Right.
And I don't get any Jesus ads whatsoever.
Right. I many years ago, I typed in Jesus is Lord and got porn.
Wow.
I thought somebody tagged this is what they did. I didn't open it. Just there it was on Google, and I went,
right.
What in the world? And it means that somebody in there was like, we're going to go after the Jesus is Lord searchers.
Right.
Right.
But so it's interesting that they don't target. They're only targeting on things that are going to make money.
You know what? I'm not sure. Necessarily. I get. I follow Gospel Coalition, and I had years of following Piper, and they are always at the top of my Google search. Even if I'll get Gospel Coalition something when I'm not even looking for a Christian article. So okay. I think Google does feed me, and the same happens with Instagram. Michaela was asking me, she goes, how do you get these great sermon clips, and I get like animals and makeup? And I said, simple. Because I tend to be looking up sermon-related stuff on the internet, so that's what they feed me on Instagram. You tend to be looking up like stuff about animals and makeup, so that's what they feed you on Instagram, whether you're on Instagram or not. So I personally have been fed a lot of those things. Yeah.
I don't get fed any of that, but I don't follow a lot of things.
Right. Well, yeah.
So,
and then the stuff that you look up, you're probably like, postmodern psychology of the ancient mind, and you're like, this is such a Jesus-related question. And Google is just like,
most of my Google searches are the Greek, the non-New Testament Greek meaning of such and such a word in first century.
Sure. Okay. There you go. Well, that's why
I don't get fed.
That's why you don't just get Jesus. Google isn't that advanced to know that what you mean is Jesus when you type that in.
Anyway. Yeah, so, I take all the different precautions you take. I think that just for me, thinking about all of this, it opens my eyes to how addicted we all are to these things and how dangerous that addiction is.
Yeah.
And how it's probably not going to go away. And yet maybe we are called to more drastic action. And maybe as pastors, we're called to invite our people to take risks that are painful to follow Jesus. Because, I think if we think about the rich young ruler, modern times, here's Jesus's answer. Log off Facebook, log off Twitter, log off Pinterest, shut your phone down, and come and follow me. I do think that would be what he would say to many of us if we said, how do I get eternal life? And he'd be like, well, go get rid of your all of these apps and things that call your attention instead of me.
So good lead into, this is what I wanted to run by you. So I actually do agree with you that Jesus would say that. I think that Jesus sometimes says, like rich young ruler, there's, you got to walk away from all these things. He talks to somebody else, doesn't bring any of those things up. Right. And so the other line of thought I've had is, what if Christians all just started going, no, I'm out of here on social media, right? I'm not going to share things. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not going to engage. I mean, is that the same line of thought of what we've done in many times, like just societal roles in public schools, in like a lot of other areas in which we've gone, this is not a safe place. Let's get out, And so what I'm saying is there a call? And I'm not saying it's for everybody, because I think the same is true of, I think the same is true of the bar, like the Silver Room down the street from our church. Some people in our church should not walk in the doors, right? It is not a safe place. The addiction is there. It's not a good idea. Others of us, I think, could sit there and have one IPA with somebody and talk and get to know them and be, in fact, called to that place. That's what I believe. And I think that you got to, this just takes discernment and community and communication and prayer. But are there some folks who are called to engage carefully in the social media sphere? Because there are a lot of people there, and do it in thoughtful ways and cautiously, with prayer, with community support, while also affirming that other people should not be there.
So yeah, I would agree in principle. But here's my pushback. Everybody who thinks that they should be the one at the bar
shouldn't be.
Well,
and that's where
all the ones who think they should be on Facebook shouldn't be.
And that's where the community comes in, right? And where, like, Jesus speaking in Rich Young Ruler, he would not have said, you know what, I've got a problem, probably, until Jesus said you do.
Right.
And I think that's...
So here's I think we interpret things in our culture as just part of the culture and not mission fields. So a bar is a mission field. It is not a place that you should go hang out.
So, right. What's the point? That gets at why are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, all
I will say that culture is changing in the sense that, like, okay, you could go to a gastric pub and not even know really that it's a pub. And yes, beer is available, but it's a gastric pub. It's a restaurant.
Some places are only about drinking.
Yes. And that's a mission field.
Right.
It's not a place that you should be going
to just
hang out.
This is your way to cool down after work.
Yes.
Right.
So the same with all of these things. But here's what I have a hard time with. The church doesn't think about it that way. You're not, and your church and my church doesn't necessarily think about it. We're not speaking on a regular basis. We don't have programs or ways of philosophies where we're trying to help disciple people and talking about people. And we're like, oh, okay, these 5 people are our Facebook people, and we pray over them, and they're our missionaries on Facebook.
We probably should.
Well, no,
and it should be people that hate the internet.
Yeah.
People who are like, I deleted all the apps. We're like, we're sending you.
We're sending you in. But I mean, I think the same with bars. I think it's the same. I mean, I think all of these activities have to be looked at as there are spiritual forces behind them.
Mm-hmm.
What are the spiritual forces? Yep. And some of them have really strong, dark spiritual forces behind them, and others don't. Right. And I think we have to be discerners as elders and as leaders and as a community and be like, oh, yeah, no, you're a missionary online. And I don't know if people... We don't think about it that way.
We don't, but I think we should think about that in all areas in which we go, because your work can have a similar, like, it can dominate your life. It's a mission field.
Yes.
But it can be everything to you. I mean, I was thinking about this with people who go into ministry. So many go in for the same reasons we get on social media, right? So many people go on the mission field and get into becoming a pastor for the same reasons we go on social media. Affirm me, like me, right? Sure. And so the perils are there. And so I think the same type of thinking where you need to be sent in with community around you supporting you.
Right.
You need to be sent in with even sometimes going where you do not want to go, where it doesn't just check all your boxes. Like, go into the kind of ministry you're not interested in, that doesn't make you feel better about yourself. You who want to be great, become a monk. You who want to be a monk, stand up in front of thousands, right? I mean, I don't know. It's...
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that the problem is Jesus had this same problem. And he stands up in the Gospel of John and says, you can't have eternal life unless you're going to eat my flesh and drink my blood. Like, you can't, if you're not all of me, you can't have eternal life. And I think we, as followers of Jesus in the modern times, me too, it's like I don't think we take this very seriously. I was saying on Sunday, the power that raised Jesus is in you.
Yeah.
And we think, that's great.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But no, the power right now, where you and I are talking, is in us, that raised Jesus from the dead.
Yeah. And
he rose and ascended and poured out his Spirit so that it would fill the earth through us. Mm-hmm. And that's like, like your work has to come under the line of the authority of Christ. Your neighborhood, your marriage, your parenting, everything is to be brought under the authority of Christ.
Your time in any sphere, which would include
Facebook and
Twitter.
And I think we have these demands to be comfortable. I think that's what comfortable and anesthetized, and like these ads. Like, so I love Nespresso. I have an Nespresso machine here. I have an Nespresso machine at home. Guess what? The ads I get all the time are the new cool fandangled Nespresso
of course you do. Right.
accessories all the time.
Yep.
And I want those.
Yep.
Because, I want the next thing. And I want that. Oh, look at this little modification they've built. And
which at some point, I guess, I want to say, like, that's not purest evil. No. It's okay for innovation. Yeah. It's okay to get a thing you like.
Yes.
There's... in the creational ideal, we're even given that task.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But it isn't to become an idol. Right. And so I think that's the interesting thing is, it's like Facebook is like walking into the temple, filled with idols.
Yes.
Is it a mission field? Do we need to be able to walk in there? If you can go in and discern all the idols, right, then maybe you can go in there. If you don't want to discern the idols and you just want to bow down to one because you just need to feel better right now, and that's where I think most of us are. And that's the easy default, and that's the default of the human heart.
Right.
Is I just need to feel better. I just want to be happy.
Yeah, and I want to forget. I want to be numbed out to the pain.
Numbed out. That's what I mean by being happy is good as well.
Right. Cynic, what's his name, the business sociologist, consultant, whatever he is. Uh-huh. He does lots of TED Talks and things like that.
With the dreads?
No, he's bald, and
okay.
He's always talking about millennials, and
that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, Cynic is very famous for it. He's the one who.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, you can look it up. It's like it's Sinek. I think how you spell his last name. But anyway, he challenges mostly millennials, but he challenges people: go to dinner without your phone.
Right.
And he does that so that like you'll have a better conversation, though he wants you to do that, but for you to actually feel the chemical withdrawal and realize what's happened between you and your phone. That this is more than just you having a useful tool.
Yeah.
It's not like a hammer. I don't get a dopamine. Even people who use hammers all day on the roof don't get dopamine hits when they see a hammer. And they're not like, oh my gosh, I got to go on the roof and hammer now. I need a hammer all the time.
You may not have been as dedicated to your hammer as I am.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you have a different dopamine hit off of your hammer than you do off your phone. But it's not. It's more than a tool. It has some kind of neurological impact that is dangerous, and that we need to be careful of.
Well, as soon as you open it, you can go and find, and you can, the evidence that you are important.
Yeah.
And that's what it holds within it, because of the things that have been created to get you to come back to consume advertisement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the deepest thing people want is to feel like they matter. And if the like button proves it, or some, friend suggestion proves it.
Or get a good laugh. Yeah. Some silly meme and just kind of chuckle and feel
a little better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think We can rail against the things. I do think that we are in a place where we can look at early church history. We can look at the fall of Rome, and we can look at, Benedict, and we can look at Augustine. And Augustine was like, he had all his hope in the Roman Empire, and it was falling. And so he was like, well, we have to look to heaven. And Benedict was like, well, no, we need to conserve society. We need to kind of cloister for a while and save civilization. Right. And as followers of Jesus. And I think I would lean more that way of like, this may be a time to be a little bit more monkish. Not in the sense of not being missional and not reaching people, but telling you know what, all these things that are kind of, all the noise, we may need to reduce the noise for a while because we're not capable of dissecting it and sifting through it. We're not connected to Jesus enough. I think that's what the church's issue is. You said it earlier. You said we're not humble. Well, humility is the thing that Jesus, one of the main things that Jesus brings in as a virtue that wasn't in existence.
Right.
At least the understanding of laying your life down for someone at that, and living out a humble life. Yeah. And seeing it as a virtue. So anyway, I don't know. I could go on because I'm a preacher, but
yeah,
this is a podcast.
Yeah, it's probably you're probably gonna have some ads pop up. You're in your podcast app. It's gonna suggest.
So I have been trying that.
You've been talking about ads a lot for how much you're denouncing.
Keith and I will turn on our phone at home, and it'll be like vacuum cleaners. I need a vacuum cleaner. Don't get any vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, they know. They know you're just screwing around.
I tell Siri I need a vacuum cleaner. She doesn't send me any ads. So.
Yeah, they know. They're on to you.
They probably are.
Yeah, they were listening to the pre-conversation where you said you were going to do that.
Yeah.
They. Yeah. Don't worry, it's not your phone.
Your phone's blowing up today, Pastor Andy.
And
look at how you just hold together.
Yeah, I'm holding it together, man. You know why?
Why?
Because I don't want to answer this.
You don't want to answer the phone. Yeah. That'd be pretty funny if you really didn't want to answer that.
Yeah. I think you want to answer it.
I want to answer your phone.
Would you like me to hand it to you?
Yeah. So can I answer your phone?
Take care of that?
Yeah. It's buzzing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it, man.
Yeah, I do.
I think we've had the conversation.
Yeah.
So, Social Dilemma, don't watch it. It's on Netflix. Netflix is terrible, and there's going to be a lot of ads, so don't watch the movie. Don't fall into the trap of making money for these people. Steer clear.
Or if you do watch it, do what I did and fast forward the silly part. The dramatization.
Yeah. There you go.
Get rid of it all. Throw your phone in the toilet.
Yep.
This is Faith Over Breakfast. Andy and Eric.
And here comes an ad.
And this has been brought to you by McDonald's. That's right. Espresso.
And maybe something else.
So.
All right. Until next time.
It's good to see you, Andy.